Okay, well, says, I got a message that recording is in progress.
Okay. Well, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna get off camera so that it's just you. Um, and so when you start your address, if you'll give yourself about 5 seconds of quiet, and then you can start, and then I'll wait until you haven't said anything for 5 seconds as well. I'm actually going to record as well, just so that, and I want to, 1 second. Okay, whenever you're ready.
Okay. Greetings. My name is Professor Luke Tripp. I'm a faculty member at St. Cloud State University. I have been employed by the university for 35 years. When I joined the faculty in 1989, my relationship with the IFO, I was a member of the Department of Interdisciplinary Studies. And as a member, I was a FA, the Faculty Association's rep in the IFO. Today I want to talk about the role of IFO in relations to diversity, equity, and inclusion. Well, what are the issues that we as members of the IFO have to deal with the policy, with DEI policies, particularly in higher education? This is the situation. Their higher education is now a battlefield around DEI. DEI policies are being attacked. I mean, viciously attacked at all governmental levels, federal, state, and local. Let me start with the state of Minnesota. These attacks are launched by the so-called think tanks, and the other principal party is the Republican Party. There are plenty of Democrats in this attack, but primarily it's been spearheaded by the Republican Party. Right? Now, some of you are familiar with the effort under Equity 2030 to address racial disparities in various fields in the state of Minnesota. Right? With regard to employment, levels of employment, when we compare those levels of Blacks and Indigenous people and brown people, Latinos, there's a tremendous gap in terms of educational attainment and in terms of levels of employment. In higher education, Equity 30 was a program on an effort to address those diversities. Even further, to raise the competency and training level of all Minnesotans, regardless of race or color. Right? Well, there's a so-called think tank. Give you one example. It's called the Center of the American Experiment. And it's like the Heritage Program, the Heritage Foundation, and also the Manhattan Project. All of these so-called think tanks are ran by very powerful uh, millionaires and billionaires, right-wing millionaires and billionaires, and they hire researchers and experts to collect data to influence governmental policy. And the policies that are targeted by these think tanks and by the Republican Party and right-wing Democrats is to stifle the effort of folks of color to change the curriculum and to increase the levels of employment in higher education. That means faculty, increase the enrollment of students of color, all of that. They are launching attacks against them. And they have redefined what DEI stands for. Now, under these efforts, progressive efforts, under DEI, the aim is diversity, to further racially diversify the workplace and educational space, particularly in higher education. The E was for equity, right? In other words, there's not an equitable or fair distribution of resources, educational resources and other resources among the different racial groups. And the I stands for inclusion, to be included in those spaces, especially those that have historically been white spaces, right? Now, the right wing, the Republicans, have redefined and rearticulated and reframed the meaning of DEI. And the D for the right wing means they define that as division. When folks of color are pushing for changes in the curriculum and all, they say, oh, that's divisive, right? The E from the right wing, they say, you know, that E stands for exclusion. What you're doing is excluding white people. Are you making white people feel uncomfortable, right? And they say that the I, their version of I in the DEI is for indoctrination. When you began to talk about Black history or Native history or Latino history or Chicano history, you know, hey, you're just trying to indoctrinate folks. And they run, and what they're using as a policy to defeat a race conscious DEI is to counter with a so-called colorblind DEI to minimize or take race out of the equation. When race has always been part of the construction and of the structure and of the policies of the United States since day one, right? And so it's like a denial of these structures and these policies and these governmental operations, as though, so all of a sudden overnight, we're just going to say, hey, we just take race out of the equation. And taking race out of the equation is really to perpetuate the status quo, you know, to keep white advantages and white privileges in place, right? Now, how are they defeating or trying to undermine DEI, right? Well, let's look at the at the federal level, under the Trump administration, for instance, they pushed through policies and funding programs that say anything having to do with DEI will be defunded. And anything in the change to curriculum, there was an argument, circle around a curriculum. And Black scholars were especially one of the uh, researchers working with the New York Times put out a book and a policy statement. It's called the 1619 Project that will address Black oppression with slavery and all of that. Well, the right wing reacted to that, and the Trump administration, they said that basically did that effort was indoctrination. And so they launched the 1776 project, the right wing. And it was designed to further patriotic education, to take racial oppression out of the curriculum. In our neighbor state next door in Windsor, in Wisconsin, Republicans put forth legislation to change the constitution of the state of Wisconsin and to make DEI policies illegal. That you can't do it. It's against the Wisconsin Constitution to have basically programs that are race-based or that address racism. And under the cover of the broader 14th Amendment, right? Equal protection of the law or Constitution. And what has happened in the state of Minnesota, over millions and tens of millions of dollars have been withdrawn from the Wisconsin higher education system in positions, faculty, employment positions in the system. Right? And at other levels in other states, like in Florida, DeSantis and all have done the same thing. Anything that comes under DEI will be defunded. Not only in terms of tax dollars, but any program that's privately funded by foundations or nonprofits will not be allowed. Right? These are the kind of attacks I'm discussing. So at the federal level and at the state level and in Minnesota itself, there have been launching attacks against DEI. And that's why we need a strong IFO, an organization to combat these attacks and to solidify our forces and fight for DEI policies. Right? So there's a role for the IFO and higher education here in Minnesota and to deal with these attacks. And what we need to do, particularly with the color caucus and all that, we have a real special job to do in order to basically further these DEI programs. Right? So we have to wake up and be aware that we're in a fight. And there are forces, strong, powerful political forces that are attempting to undo what we have already done. So we're going to be pushed on the defensive. Now, fortunately for us, there are some strong political forces that support DEI. But those negative forces are out there and they're gathering strength. Right? So we have to commit ourselves to the fight and struggle for justice and commit ourselves to the fight and strategy and anti-racist strategies. That's what we have to do as an organization, IFO. Those are basically kind of the overview, is to raise your awareness to the problems we face and what we need to do to become better informed and work out strategies to combat the negative forces that are undermining our struggle for justice and equity in higher education in the state of Minnesota and elsewhere too. Those are my concluding remarks. I guess perhaps we can elaborate more on some of the points that I made in this interview. I want to thank you for listening to this interview. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Okay. How long was it?
It's 1:47 now. I didn't check to see how long it when we.
Okay. All right. So you got it right?
I got it.
Okay, then I'll see you on Thursday. Hey, what is the agenda for the delegate assembly? I haven't seen like on Friday and
For the
Thursday.
actual delegate assembly itself,
Yes.
I had,
Can you send me email me the
what's that?
Can you email me the schedule?
I don't know if I have it, and I don't know that it's solidified yet, honestly.
Is
So,
it? What's going to happen on Friday? Do you know, in general?
we'll have I'm looking for, I had some. We'll have some general assemblies where we'll do the excuse me, where we'll pass and review resolutions to be passed. We will and that's main
Okay.
main
Well, what's going to happen on Saturday?
the same. On Friday, we do have some guests coming, including the governor to address this.
Well, the reason I ask is that I can be there Thursday and Friday, but I won't be there on Saturday.
Okay. And you're a delegate?
Yes.
Okay. So we will have Representative Pulowski and Chancellor Olson on Friday, as well as the state grant and financial aid manager, Megan Flores. Saturday will be more business. And so the sessions, let's see, on Friday, the first session is general session. The second one, well, they're all general sessions. The second one is budget and dues.
What is the time frame for Friday and Saturday? I mean, when do things begin and when do they?
On Friday, we begin at 10:45 with we have check-in in the morning, of course.
Yeah.
And then the last session ends at 4:45 on Friday, but
Okay.
there's the presentation from the state grant and financial aid manager that goes till 5:30. And then there's a reception and dinner after that. And so, the main business is to vote on the resolutions to guide the IFO.
Okay.
That's the focus for both Friday and Saturday. Thursday, of course, is the equity day.
Right.
Is the equity caucus day.
Okay. Is there a proxy vote or something?
Well, there's alternates. So your campus could have alternates for delegates who can't be there at certain times. And it could be the case that you don't have alternates because a lot of times they don't fill the seat, they don't fill the delegation anyway.
So suppose you have three delegates and maybe one person has to leave. Can they, and the person through proxy say, well, vote for that, cast a vote for that person?
I think you can do that unofficially, but that would be with an alternate, right?
Yeah.
It wouldn't be, I don't know that we have a structure. I don't believe that we have a structure
Mhm.
to allow for that.
Okay.
Official.
Okay, well, thanks
Well,
for,
also because, you know, the language can change um, through amendments.
Mhm.
So, yeah, I don't know that there's a way to say I support this resolution that will come up in the future, because by the time it comes to a vote, it could be a whole different resolution.
Okay. Well, hope to see you Thursday then.
All right. Take care. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Bye-bye.